welcome to Grey Wolf Den. This is a Halloween special. I'm Flick.
I'm Deadly. And today we're bringing you our second episode. It's called McRaven House, the most haunted house in Mississippi.
Dun dun dun! You like?
I'm sorry. So this house was built in 1797 by a man named Andrew Glass.
Yes, it was a two-bedroom home with one bedroom above the kitchen.
Yeah, so two-room house. Glass, he didn't have the staircase. He was trying to, have a chance to run away. He had a ladder.
Right.
Yeah, two-room house, one above the kitchen, and one was a bedroom. But Andrew was a highway robber, going up and down the mattress trace.
Just killing folks, stealing their stuff.
That was his pastime.
So eventually, the Spaniards actually had the territory then, end up giving the land to Andrew Glass. Hopefully he will stop those mischief activities.
And that wasn't necessarily
The case.
in Glass's plans. So, of course, he did have this land now. He started to build this house. He would just go back there after he went and robbed people. Their plan didn't work out the way he wanted it to.
No, he met a woman, which he eventually married.
Yeah, Mary. He married Mary.
He married Mary. But it's funny because the land back then was used to call the town, or probably the town, called Walnut Hill.
Of course, I'm sure Andrew Glass running around everywhere. He wasn't necessarily
Decent?
loyal.
There we go.
Well, he wasn't
good.
decent, but he wasn't loyal to his wife. And once she found this out, she was not exactly the happiest camper about that.
Just to be honest, stories about her anyway, she's always been an angry woman.
Yeah, but it didn't help that he was beating her.
Accusations.
Oh, sorry, accusations. But once he found out that he wasn't being loyal to her, she got angry and she wanted to take care of this. She was like, well, if you won't be loyal to me, I'll make sure you can't be with anybody. Of course, she wasn't happy with his promiscuous activities, but I think the most messed up thing is he was shot.
He was.
And after he was shot, she decided to take out her revenge. She went on and sliced him from ear to ear. And you would think, okay, she's got her revenge. She stops there. She's a Southern belle. She got her little...
She said no, she ain't done. She's definitely not done. She
not.
chopped them in pieces and put them everywhere.
Yeah, all over the land.
Just everywhere. Good fertilizer, I guess.
Look, he was probably great fertilizer. But, of course, after that, she wasn't going to stay in home.
Right. She moved out. She ended up selling the house.
Afterwards, the next owner was a sheriff, ironically enough. And he also married someone named Mary Elizabeth.
His name was Stephen Howard. He actually took the residency 1836.
And in 1836, he decided that he was going to do some improvements to it. So before Mary even got a chance to move into the house, he added a 2-story porch, an enclosed patio, a dining room, and staircase.
And a bedroom?
And a bedroom. Of course, he added all these things to the house, made it beautiful for his wife.
Before she moved in.
And once she did move in, she was with child.
She was.
Yeah, she was with child. So, of course, back then, they didn't have as advanced medical practices as we had. There were some complications during the pregnancy. And we can also say there's complications after the pregnancy. So, eventually, she did end up having the baby, but she did pass away. And with that devastation...
He decided to, what? He took the baby back home to Gaza.
He did. And he eventually started selling off parts of the land.
To William Bob.
Yeah, he sold initially 6.3 acres to William Bob. And he continued to sell more and more. He didn't want to hold on to that land. Like, honestly, would you want to hold on to the memory of your deceased wife?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. But eventually, the house itself was sold to William Bob's brother, John B.
Bob. O.B. John Bob.
John B. Yes.
Oh, yeah. 2 B's. John Bob was a rich merchant. He was a sawmill owner. He was a plantation owner. And he was a brick maker.
Brick manufacturer.
Brick manufacturer.
Yeah, he was.
He was doing all these improvements on the house, of course, because he had all of this money that he could spend with all these different businesses he had. He was adding stuff like the flywing stairs, and
He added a master bedroom,
yeah,
as well as he had apparently this elegant parlor as well.
yeah.
And of course, you can see like little different Greek touches inside the house as well, especially in the ceilings and, in the outside of the house.
And he was the one that he added the men's changing room too.
Yes.
I still think they should put a women's changing room, but that's fine.
Jealous much?
Just a little bit.
Okay.
Just a little bit. It is a nice house.
It was a beautiful house.
And of course, he did eventually marry. He married a woman named Selena Bob.
Which then he decided, just the kindness of his heart. I mean, he had this.
So because of the siege of Vicksburg, he went on and opened his house up as a field hospital.
That was around 1863.
Yeah, but I really like the way that he did it. He was very smart about it. He made sure that the far end of the house, away from all like the gunfire and the cannon fire, was the part that he used as a hospital. That way, if anything or when anything came towards the house, if they fell short of going to the actual like war zone, it wouldn't hurt the people who were already in critical care. And then he was also smart because for the bottom part of his house, I believe it was called the cellar, he went on and put his family down there so that they would be protected too. He was in Papa Bear mode. He was literally trying to look out for all the people he didn't know and all of his family. The siege of Vicksburg and everything kind of cooled down. He did add more roses to the garden, and he took great pride in this because he had it for his wife.
Selena. I like that name.
But the thing is, eventually, Union soldiers, I'm not going to say they didn't have as much to do, but they had other things that they were indulging in.
Alcohol.
So one day he walked out and he saw these Union soldiers at his roses, and he was just like, little weird. Okay, let me check this out. Walked over to him, and of course they exchanged words. He was like, hey, what are you doing here? And words were exchanged. They weren't necessarily the nicest. I'm sure we can't say it on YouTube. But eventually there was a conflict. They were saying things to him that weren't the best, and he got angry. They started kicking his rose bushes, smashing them. After all of that work he put into it, they were destroying everything that he had put out there. So him out of anger, of course, he's looking all over the place. He's like, what can I do to stop him? He grabs a brick and throws it with all of his might, I'm assuming. Most people in anger don't have the best aim, but it seems like he had pretty good aim. Because he ended up hitting one of I want to say it was a sergeant.
Yes.
Right in the middle of the forehead. And of course, John Bob, knowing like, oh my gosh, I just royally like effed up. He went straight to the commander of the garrison. He was like, hey, commander, messed up, hit one of your guys. This is what they were doing.
What was that commander's name, though?
Oh, that was General Slocum. General Slocum.
Okay.
And he went to him and he was like, hey, look, I messed up, but these guys were here doing this, this, and this. Like, he was explaining the whole situation, words were said. And General Slocum was like, hey, no worries. John Bob, I got you. I'm going to take care of it for you. They shouldn't have been out there. They shouldn't have been drunk, supposedly drunk. They smelled of alcohol and all this good stuff, I'm sure. But he was like, I'll take care of it for you. I'll talk to him, whatever. But the thing is, the moment that John Bob walked out and started going towards his house,
that's when the rest of the soldiers were waiting and ambushed him.
Yeah.
They literally ambushed him.
And of course, poor John Bob, surrounded by all these Union soldiers, didn't have too much to work with. He was attacked. He was beat. I'm sure he was bloody, bruised, everything. And eventually, he got away. He was able to just like crawl his way out of there. And
then he got shot in the back.
And I couldn't imagine what that felt like. Like, you can't see this. I'm sure, of course, being beat, like, your head's probably ringing. And then all of a sudden, you get this pain. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, whoa, what's happening? So, on his way to his house, after all of this stuff, he passes away.
Well, Selena found him and brought him to the house.
So, John Bob did eventually pass away in the house. And after that, I'm sure Selena, she couldn't hold on to it too long. Same thing as everybody else. She felt terrible having all those memories in that house. So eventually, she also would sell.
She sold it to an agent. My apologies.
Yeah, I was gonna say she sold it to the agent.
And then
And that was
eventually, after a year.
Yeah, because it was the early 1870s when the Murrays took over.
That's correct.
And the Murrays, William, he, of course, moved in. What was his wife's name again? It was...
Actually, I think when William was a union soldier himself, but when he moved in.
He was.
And when he moved in, that's when eventually he ended up finding his wife in town.
William Murray would eventually get married. He married a prestigious woman. Her name was then Ellen Flynn.
Yes.
Of course, she was eventually Ellen Murray. But they went on to have 7 kids. 7 little feet. I guess it's 14 feet. Just pitter-pattering all over the floor.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
yeah, you gotta double it. They didn't all have 1 foot. But sadly enough, they would have 2 boys that supposedly or possibly died from yellow fever. So that brought them down to 4 girls and 1 boy.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, people don't last forever. William would die in 1911, and 10 years after that, Ellen would die in 1921.
They also had a daughter that died in 1946.
Ida.
Hurricane
Ida. No, I'm kidding.
Stop playing. Then a son in 1950, Harry.
But they did have a daughter who moved out and got married. So, they did have Harry, they had Ella, and they had Annie.
Also, yes.
Ella and Annie, they stayed in the house for a good while. They didn't have the best, we'll say, name in the town. They
secluded themselves.
Yeah, they called them spinsters. They called them witches. They called them pretty much everything that wasn't nice under the sun. But they were 2 sisters who lived together, and honestly, I don't see how they did it. They lived in a house that had almost no electricity. It had no water.
Mm-mm.
Only thing they really did was make phone calls
to get their food delivered, if not the house visit for the doctor.
Yeah, the doctor would come about every 6 weeks, and eventually Harry moved back in, and he one day was just like, hey, I have stuff to do. So he was like, let me see the doctor first. He went on, got checked out by the doctor, and had a massive heart attack.
Sad.
And I couldn't imagine, like, your brother just moves back in, you're like, oh, yay, family party, and then all of a sudden he just, like, keels over.
That happens.
Yeah, but after that, of course, they had to take care of his body. And I'm sure they didn't have, like, big funeral homes or anything, so what they did was they took their dining room door down and laid Harry on top of that, and that's where they had the wake. Now, the thing is...
They had all these people coming in and out, visiting the house.
Yeah, and I couldn't imagine. You're already a recluse. You don't like... I'm assuming you really don't like being around people, because you're having everything delivered to your house, and then all of a sudden your house is flooded with people. The anxiety had to be flying. Like, it was just terrible. Like, anxiety attacks everywhere. So, of course, funerals worked a little different. Funeral homes worked a little different back then. The girls, I'm assuming, were not aware that you had to call twice. You had to call once when the person passed, and you had to call another time to get them picked up. So 6 weeks after, whenever the doctor came back, he was like, ew, what does that smell? They're like, ooh, it's Harry. He's still here. And the doctor had to call the funeral home and be like, hey, you gotta come pick this guy up.
Just imagine the mess on that. Just the smell.
In the Mississippi heat, in the summer.
Oh.
Hot, muggy.
Man.
No electricity, so no fans, no air, no nothing.
His body fluids were like everywhere.
Body fluids were flowing.
Oh,
he was probably bloated. It was a lot. But the doctor helped them get it taken care of. They were like, hey, so I understand this is your brother. And they eventually got him buried. They got him put in the ground, taken care of, all the good stuff. But
they had to clean up that door, though.
Yeah, they still had to clean up the door because the mess was all over that door. But the thing is, I think I'm gonna say the creepiest thing. They didn't throw out that door.
No.
They kept the door.
They repainted it.
Put it right back up.
Mm.
Oh, I don't think I could live with that door in the house.
Knowing that I had to open and close that door.
But the thing is, they still stayed recluse, and they stayed recluse in their own house.
Well,
like they stayed in the dining room.
Yeah.
They brought their beds in there. They lived in the dining room. They didn't want to go to the second floor.
Probably because they were kind of old.
That is a possibility. Maybe their knees were bad.
You know.
They were like, I don't want to fall down the stairs. But eventually, like I said, people don't live forever. Ella would pass in 1960. And after that, I'm sure Anna didn't want to live in the house where all of her family had died. Except for
Sure.
that one sister that got married. I don't know where she died. But she went on and she sold the house and she moved into a nursing home. Which honestly, given the record of the house,
I don't blame
probably
her.
for the best. Yeah, like, I don't think I'd want to live there either. And then after that, it was sold off to the Bradleys. The Bradleys started doing the tours in 1961, so literally a year after she left. They're like, hey, there's a lot of history in this place. We're going to go on and sell it off. And it was actually kind of a smart idea, though. So they went on and got it in the National Registry.
Nice.
So it was part of historical places. So, hey, we can do tours, let people see it, see what all happened here. But that wasn't actually the tour that we went on.
No.
So after that, they sold it to a man named Leland. Leland French. I kind of wonder if he spoke French, though, because they are kind of close to Louisiana.
You
Just
never know.
But he converted it back into a residency. So he was like, hey, this was a family home. I'm going to make it back into a family home. But Leland had a few scares in that house.
Quite a few incidents,
Yeah.
yes.
So,
He felt uncomfortable enough to eventually call the priest.
yeah, and he had the priest bless the house. He was like, Father, help me. Like, please help me. This is a lot. And the reason, he was like, I feel like there's unseen forces. Of course, people didn't want to say ghost, but ghosts. He kind of felt like they were messing with him. And of course, Leland did not stay there forever. He stayed until 2007 when he moved back to California to take care of his parents.
But in August 2015, Stephen and Kendra Reed purchased the home and reopened it for both historical and tour.
Yeah. And I know we went on a candlelight tour.
We did. It was fantastic.
It was. We got a chance to meet Miss Kendra, and she was great. She was super sweet.
We met her first because there was a line.
Yeah, there was a line, and there was a gift shop. So me and Flick walked over, and we went to have a conversation and see what all was there. And Miss Kendra was super sweet. She gave us some information before we even got in there. So she was telling us all about the different things. She was telling us about the doll. Oh my goodness, that doll. So after talking to Miss Kendra, like, we did have some nice conversation.
We did.
And she ended up telling us, like, there are 14 known entities in the house. Of course, there's probably a lot more, but we know of 14 specifically. And some of them, of course, they know by name, based off of the history. So, of course, we know of the first person who actually started building the house, Andrew Glass. So, with him, he is known to be a little touchy. He is known for he's known for like brushing through women's hair, and I think I have him with me now.
Sorry.
But of course, he was also a robber, so we weren't told this, but if something comes up missing, you might want to question Andrew Glass.
Check your pockets twice before you leave.
There you go. And then, of course, you can move on to Mary Elizabeth. Poor Mary Elizabeth.
She was the most active according.
Yeah, she was the most active. Like, there's been people saying that, like, her wedding shawl will, like, give off heat, or sometimes you'll see it move.
Ooh.
Don't touch wedding shawls, it's not nice. And then she's also known to be the most friendly. She's supposed to, what was it, Flick?
Well, I know the fact that she likes to open drawers in and out. I mean,
Yeah.
open and close drawers a lot.
Yeah.
She likes to interact with young mothers and children a lot.
Yeah, she didn't interact with me.
I wonder why.
And then, of course, she also has a lamp in her room, and she's known for, like, turning on and off the lamp. Sometimes she'll even, like, tug at your clothes a little bit.
And photobomb your pictures.
Kind of like old ladies do. They're like, oh, you're so cute.
You're gonna iron that later.
No. So, thankfully, she is the most friendly. She is one of the most active ones.
Yes.
And I'd rather an active ghost be a friendly one.
Ain't that the truth?
But then, of course, you have John Bob, the rich mogul type guy. So he's known for smoking around the house.
Like just smoking a cigar on the probably, out there in the patio.
How do you hold a cigar?
People like this.
Oh. I went through all the different hand signs. It looks like
But he's also, people have saying, not only seen him out there, also hear him talk as well.
yeah.
He's also spotted by the stairway, and then of course in the downstairs or something. Yeah.
Yeah. He's been spotted all over the house. So if you smell a smoky smell, it might be John Bob.
Might be.
There's not anything proven, but it might be John Bob. Smoking in the staircase. What was that song? Smoking in the boys' room? Something like that.
Isn't it?
Something like that.
And who?
Hey, didn't John Bob build the men's changing room too?
Yeah.
So smoking in the boys' room?
Smoking in the boys' room.
John Bob was originally smoking in the boys' room.
Man,
I wonder if that's where they got the name for the song.
you never know.
Dun dun dun. No. And then of course they have William Murray. Don't forget, Bill is another name for William. You can put it together. It's okay. But William Murray is known to like play the piano, serenade his family a little bit.
Especially his two daughters.
Yeah. I mean, it would probably be nice to hear my dad like playing the piano, but if he's passed, that might be a little creepy.
That's
Just
true.
start hearing piano in the middle of the night.
That is true.
And then of course, Leland was actually they say attacked by Bob. Not Bob, goodness. Leland was attacked by William. He had seen him on the staircase. He had slammed his fingers in drawers and doors, and oh gosh.
He said he got thrown out down the stairs.
He did say he got thrown downstairs by William. And that's the thing though. I'm glad he's not the most active, because I'm already clumsy. I didn't want to fall down any stairs.
And the crazy thing is he also broke his thumb too with the drawer.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what did Leland do to him? Like,
Maybe he just didn't like you. He was like, his last name's French. I don't speak French. And then, of course, these ghosts are super active. You can't forget about all, the groups of people that went through there. So you have the Confederate soldiers. You have Native Americans from the Trail of Tears going through there. So you might not just see the people who resided in the house, or you might not just feel or hear the people who resided in the house,
can we circle
but the
back?
people around the house.
What about the Union soldiers? You said Confederate?
Oh, my bad. Yeah, you might see the
or
Union.
just the Union.
No, you might have Union soldiers there too. I'm sorry. Field hospital and all. But I think the other thing that I do remember from being there, they told us about the soldiers, and somehow, sometimes they would have to cut off the limbs.
Yes, because they don't have the greatest technology ever. So
yeah, no, they were just cutting that thing off.
Maybe the average doctor or surgeon or whoever's out there cutting the limbs could do 6 a minute.
No, yeah, it was something like that. I know he said 3 in so many seconds or whatever.
Yeah.
But you also have to remember, they didn't have a way to organize this, so they kind of just threw it to the side, had a pile, and once they got the pile, they dug a shallow grave and buried up the pile. But the thing is with Vicksburg, because it is so close to the water and it's full of hills, so water runs down and it eventually washes away the dirt too. So every so often they'll have limbs popping up in the yard. I don't know what I would do if randomly just a foot popped up in the yard.
Oh no, you just go ahead and call your dog and be like, what you got there?
No. My dog is not eating human feet. But I couldn't imagine the first person who saw that though. One of the first owners of the house.
What's crazy though, the current owner, he actually found a femur.
He did.
He showed us a picture of a femur over there. That was crazy.
I remember him saying, he was like, I didn't know in this picture whether I needed to smile or if I needed to look serious. But they were really great people. They were. But the thing is, of course, throughout the years, they did have to make renovations to the house. And I still remember John Bob. He was talking about, not John Bob was talking about, goodness. I did not speak to John Bob. Put that out there. But they were talking about John Bob and the cannonball. How they had the cannonball on the wall. And of course, he didn't think it was a danger or anything. He was like, it's a cannonball stuck in the wall, no big deal, it didn't explode, we're fine. And I'm sure he had his kids playing around it. They probably bumped into it a couple times. They're like, ow, my elbow. And then he was like, one day he was like, well, I'll have it taken out. We can put a picture up of the cannonball and it'll just represent it or something, right? But the thing is, they took the cannonball out, they had it detonated, and it exploded. So all those years.
It could have just
Yeah. Oh,
all over
that
the
is
place.
terrifying.
Especially when you have all those youngies running around.
Yeah. And then I know they also talked to us about the doll.
Did they talk about the doll?
Yeah.
The cornhusk doll.
The Cornhusk doll.
That's in Glass's room.
Yeah, it is in Glass's room. But the thing is, they have seen on some of the tours. And of course, they've seen, like, just the employees that actually work there. They have a camera up. And the reason they put it there was to watch the doll. Of course, most people, you think, oh, it's a doll, it's not going to do anything. This doll moves. And they've had moments where the camera would, like, glitch out or mess up, and all of a sudden the doll's somewhere else. And they also had
Or
one
be
of...
like the same spot, but turn somewhere in different directions.
No, she was saying that it would move
Ooh,
spots.
no, I don't know how I feel about that.
And you bought one. But then they also sat... Yeah, you bought
Mine's
one.
the innocent one.
All right, Mary. But then they... but then they also had one of their investigations that they did have on YouTube. And it was one of the girls who works there. She was literally saying that during the tour, there was a lady, she kept talking and she was looking at her and she had to stop and ask her. She was like, hey, are you okay? And all she could do was like gesture to the doll. When the worker looked at the doll, they saw it erecting itself. It was turning and facing up. So they literally saw the doll move.
Creepy.
You
Creepy.
bought one!
Well, mine's good.
Mary, you better be sweet with your little lantern. Oh my goodness.
But let's talk about our adventures there as well. You know,
Wait, peekaboo!
we'll talk about them.
Okay.
We'll talk about when we got in there, we waited in line, we enjoyed our time.
We had a great time in line, by the way. If you can't have a good time in that line, you're not doing something right.
But when we actually was up next, you know, the owner, he was telling us the stories about, you know, everybody's low experience.
Yeah. And he even has pictures to show you, which is great.
It was fantastic. And one of the image was apparently this ghost, they decided to name Peekaboo. And he's just like to pop up in places.
Yeah, in the backs of pictures, all of a sudden he just go peekaboo. But they also have another one, Eric.
They did, but Eric didn't get his name after apparently a child was playing around in the house. Mom decided to be like, hey, stop it now.
What are you doing?
Question the kid. He's like, I'm playing with Eric. Who's Eric?
There was no other kid on this tour named Eric.
None. So this kid was just running around playing with another kid that's happened not to be here.
That no one else saw. I could only imagine that mom be like, what are you doing? I don't know what the kid's name. Billy? He's like, I'm playing with Eric. Who the heck is Eric? Is someone missing an Eric? No one was missing Eric. Not on that actual tour. Eric was just part of the tour.
Part of the tour.
Yeah. But this is my thing. Conspiracy. Conspiracy alert. But I guess it's not a conspiracy, it's a theory. But, so we know William Murphy had 2 boys that passed away
the
of
young
yellow,
boys that passed.
possibly yellow fever.
That's right.
So who's to say that one of their names wasn't Eric and Peekaboo just hasn't told anybody what his name is? Or maybe Peekaboo was so young, he didn't know how to say his name.
That's a good point.
Man.
Something to think about. Question of my life.
Question mark. But for the most part, that's what they told us about. They were telling us about the paranormal activity that they had. They even had pictures to show you, which I think is absolutely fantastic. They had people that were on the tour that were like, that would send them pictures, or they would show them the pictures and they'd be like, hey, like, have you seen this before? Or, hey, do you see that? Or is it just me? Do I need glasses?
Is that an orb? I don't know.
Is that an orb? No. Yeah. It is. Okay. But those were just some of the encounters that we were able to know about before we even got a chance to go into McRaven House. Like, it was a great experience. Everybody there was fantastic.
It was. As soon as you walk in, it's just, first of all, you just admire just the beauty of the house itself. But just to be honest, in my experience, I felt more like, I don't know, I felt more eerie during the stairwells.
It probably didn't help
You
that we had the
know,
little
the
flickering
hallways.
candles.
Mine didn't flicker. Mine was white. I was the only one with the white light.
Why did mine flicker?
Ooh. Mary loved you. Or
I guess.
or Glass did.
I hope not. But of course, like, we're not the only ones that have done, like, our own investigations on this place. Of course, I have the haunted tours and everything else. But this building, this house, was also on an episode of Ghost Adventures. It was on Ghosts of Vicksburg, the McRaven Mansion. Then they called it a mansion. I kind of like that. They made it fancy. And then, of course, it was on the Travel Channel 2018. That's when they had it. And then fellow YouTubers, Sam and Colby, they actually went and visited this year just like we did. They got there before we did.
Oh man.
Love you, Sam and Colby. But they were able to go and they did a full paranormal investigation, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. They had Todd on there too from David Dobrik's vlogs, but I thought that was the coolest thing. We got a chance to go to the same place they went, and of course everybody has different experiences with the ghost or like with the building itself.
I would love to honestly spend the night there.
That would be kind of cool.
I would love to enjoy just take my own personal tour, just by myself in the house to see what's going on.
You heard that? Flick wants to go by himself in the house. We'll drop him off. We'll come back in 20 years.
What?
Don't worry, Flick. We'll come back for you eventually for the next tour.
If I move on, I'm gonna make a ruckus.
Just to kind of cap it off, we had a great experience at McRaven House. Definitely encourage anyone and everyone, if you're able to go have a visit. Of course.
That reminds me, we had a little device in there, and it went off a couple times.
Yeah, it was like,
especially at Mary's room and Glass room, in the hallway. It was creepy.
yeah.
What was the device? I forgot.
It was the little EMF reader.
Yeah, that thing. It's great.
Like and subscribe. Ring that little bell.
Thank you for watching, everyone.
Feel free to come back and see us. Bye.